Well, hi, everybody. I'm Brendan Gulick from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center in Columbus, and it is the biggest week of the year for the Buckeye Report. Ohio State with the rivalry game coming up against the Michigan Wolverines on Saturday. They'll kick off at 12 noon up at the Big House in Ann Arbor. And I'll tell you what, after we had a chance to visit with Ryan Day and several of the team's veteran players here this afternoon, I can tell you that there is a noticeable difference in this facility this week. Isn't ever a lack of focus or attention on the game that's coming up, but there really feels like a difference this week, considering not just the fact that it's a rivalry game, but of course, with everything riding on this game for the Ohio State Buckeyes, knowing that a loss this week would knock them out of Big Ten title game contention, and it would probably eliminate them from the college football playoff. There is everything at stake on Saturday afternoon. Give you some of the updates here from our post-game, or not post-game media availability, but midweek media availability with Ryan Day and a couple of the guys. First of all, Ryan Day essentially was asked about what I just referenced, all of the other things that are at stake in this particular game. And he essentially said, you know what, certainly recognize it, but can't think too much about it because it's not productive. The Buckeyes are very well aware of where they're positioned right now in the College Football Playoff Committee's eyes. They are pretty darn cognizant of the impression they made last week nationally after just walloping Michigan State. But the fact of the matter is, if they don't win this week, everything comes crashing down. The good news is the Buckeyes have beaten Michigan 17 of the last 18 years, and there comes an expectation with the weight of that. And there are a lot of guys on this team that have not yet played in this rivalry. So I'm very much interested to see how some of those young guys perform when they get into a hostile environment on Saturday afternoon. But Ryan Day made it pretty darn clear they are extraordinarily focused this week, and you kind of feel the thickness and the tension in the air. It's not a nervousness or an anxiety. It's just a heightened focus. You can hear it in the voices of the players that spoke with us. Certainly you heard it from Ryan Day this afternoon. And you can tell even just the support staff, everybody is very matter of fact and business-like here this week. There's not necessarily the same looseness, at least not that I saw here this afternoon inside the Woody Hayes Center. Ryan Day was asked, about what's on the line this week. Again, he said, we don't need any extra motivation. This game is all the motivation that you need. And it's something they obviously spend 365 days a year on mentally getting ready for this week. When asked about last year's, challenge around this game being canceled, he said, you were kind of forced pretty quickly to turn the page because they found out fairly quickly they would be playing for a Big Ten championship and didn't really have time to dwell on the fact that this wasn't going to happen last year. Obviously not a time anybody wants to go back and relive, but the Buckeyes basically said, look, last year when it happened, it was awful. It hurt, and pretty quickly they needed to flush it and move on because, they had a Big Ten championship game to get ready for and obviously made a run all the way to the national championship game last year. One injury note, Emeka Egbuka, there's no specifics around what kept him out last week, but Ryan Day did say that he is hopeful that Emeka will this weekend. So that certainly sounded a bit optimistic. And then just sort of asked about his introduction to the rivalry. I know Coach Day has talked about these things publicly before, but, again, today graciously addressed them and said, look, I grew up in New England, and as a college football fan, you always watched this game. He didn't need to necessarily grow up in Ohio to know the importance of this game nationally. And then he talked about the very first time he came into this facility when he and his son first walked in, and saw highlights from the previous year's rivalry game, and he said it just kind of hit you right away, like, man, I get to coach in that. I want to coach in that. I want to be a part of that. And now here he is, and certainly in a position to achieve all the goals that the Buckeyes have for themselves this year. Everything has been building up to this point. They've played 11 games and largely played very well over the last few months. But now you've got a chance to play Michigan. You still have a chance to get to Indianapolis and win a Big Ten championship. The college football playoff is very real, and a national championship goal is not an outrageous thing to be thinking about by any stretch. So the Buckeyes certainly feel like they're in a good spot as you get ready for this week. We talked with Zach Harrison. Zach Harrison was asked about the younger guys and how he thought those guys would get ready for this week and how they have come to know and understand this rivalry. And he pretty quickly, he laughed. He goes, "Oh, they know. And reflected back on the recruiting process that that he was a part of. We obviously had considered going to both places, but especially because he's a native of this area. Obviously, there's a lot of guys on this team that are not from Ohio or even from Columbus. Zach has known about this rivalry because he has seen it with his eyes his whole life. He's 20 years old, and the Buckeyes have only lost twice to Michigan in his entire lifetime. So he is very aware of this rivalry, and he said the younger guys certainly know and embrace what's coming. I also asked him about the biggest impression he has seen from his team's offense, not from Michigan, but just what his impressions are of watching the offense grow, because he referenced the confidence that his own unit has been playing with. And he said, that group on the other side of the ball right now basically is carrying themselves and performing as though nobody in the country can stop them. Now, is that 100% true? Everybody is, has vulnerabilities here and there. Nobody's perfect, but my goodness, they certainly are playing like the best offense in the country right now. He referenced the fact that, he feels if Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson and Jackson Smith and Jigba went to the NFL right now, they could be a top 5 wide receiver group in the NFL. That's awfully high praise. I don't know if I necessarily totally agree with that, but they obviously have NFL talent, and I think all 3 of those guys are going to have great careers. I also think they're young, and to project them that high in the NFL right now seems a little bit silly. But I appreciate and understand the confidence with which he's kind of hyping up his guys there. He talked about the offensive line and how well they've been playing. He said, I feel like I go up against the best offensive line in the country every single week, and that it's made him better. That's pretty clear. Zach Harrison has had a really, really good second half of the season in particular. We talked with Haskell Garrett, and the biggest takeaway I had from Haskell was just, the fact that they get to be the College Game Day ESPN, national focal point 2 weeks in a row. Game day in Columbus last weekend and going up to Ann Arbor this weekend. And he said, this is why you play at Ohio State. This is exactly what you want. If you're a recruit, what better pitch and playing in front of the biggest national audience, and College Game Day is a big part of that. Haskell said, we live under pressure and we love chaos. I thought that was really interesting, the way he pinpointed that. He also said he's trying to leave Ohio State better than he found it. And he's got a Thanksgiving service project and fundraiser, I guess, best way to say it, tomorrow that he's spearheading. So wish him well in all of those charitable efforts. Had a chance to hear from Nick Petit-Frere as well. He was asked about the challenge this week of going up against Aiden Hutchinson, who is certainly having an All-American caliber year, and David Ajabo, who's a very, very good pass rusher on the other side. And just the mental fortitude he needs to muster up to play against guys like that. And he kind of laughed, but matter-of-factly said, it's Team Up North week. Enough said. He doesn't need any extra motivation. He said that the names change, the players change, but the rivalry has been here longer than any of us. And he said, my grandparents and great-grandparents watched this rivalry. So he recognizes that he's just a small part in a very big picture. And considering this is his first chance to start a game in this rivalry, he said he was honored and blessed that he has a chance to etch his name in the history books of this rivalry. It was a pretty mature thing to say. Biggest thing I had to take away from Chris Olave, Chris is Chris. He is a quiet, humble guy, but a lot of people have been wondering what he's done with the record-breaking ball from last week. And he laughed. He said, my dad wants to take it home, but it's at my house for a little while. I want to hang on to it. It's pretty special. So I'm not sure what his long-term plans are for the ball, but in the meantime, Chris is hanging on to that one at home. 12 noon on Saturday up in Ann Arbor. It's going to be an awfully fun day and weekend, and obviously Ohio State has has pretty big aspirations even beyond this weekend, but need to focus on what is the greatest week in Ohio State football. Again, the energy around this building right now is focused like I haven't seen it all year. And that's kind of what you hope and expect, because this game means everything to Ohio State's fans, means everything to the alumni and the program, and obviously means everything for what the 2021 Buckeyes are hoping to accomplish. That's it for the Buckeye Report from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Again, 12 noon kickoff. The game is on Fox on Saturday afternoon. I'm sure if you're not going to the game, you'll find your favorite way to consume it, whether you're with family or friends, watching from home, watching from a local restaurant or bar. I know this is an awfully fun week for Ohio State fans across the country. So enjoy it, embrace it, have fun with the rivalry, and we'll see you on Saturday. We've got plenty more coverage coming up this week on BuckeyesNow.com. You can follow us on our social media channels as well. We've got we'll certainly have coverage later tonight of the latest college football playoff rankings and what it means. Perhaps Ohio State could move up in the rankings after that impressive performance. See if the Buckeyes, certainly they'll jump Oregon after Oregon's loss, but will they jump Alabama? I guess we'll find out a little bit later tonight. Again, I'm Brendan Gulick for Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated. This has been the Buckeye Report from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. We'll see you real soon. Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated.